Well, good afternoon, everybody. This is Nate. Welcome to our Brookdale Hospice 11th hour volunteer training. We've got Connie and Ken live with us, and hopefully those of you all that are volunteering with us now and in the future will get a lot of good insights and support from this very important topic, which we'll be really sharing a lot about this year in 2019 and trying to help and encourage us to do the very best we can to enrich the lives of our patients and families in their final hours. So let's go ahead and get started. So I'm going to share with you a case study to get started with here about Betty. So Betty is a patient that, if you want to imagine, is in one of your locations that you're familiar with, that you've been seeing for the last 6 to 8 weeks, and you've seen her about 3 or 4 times, and she's 85 years old, and you get word that she's quote-unquote actively dying, which typically means that a person just might have 12 to 24 to 48 hours left to live. You get word that she's unresponsive, that she's been a bit agitated at times, and her daughter, God bless her soul, has been at her bedside just about 24/7 for the last 2 or 3 days, and really needs a break, but she doesn't want her mom to be alone. So you've agreed to go spend some extra time because you have known Betty and have met her daughter before and want to have a good final goodbye with her. And so as you arrive to Betty's home and you get to her location, the staff reports that Betty has been trying to pull her covers off. She has been reaching out with her hand. At times it looks like she's even trying to maybe talk or look at someone or some things that may not be things that you're seeing in the room. And from what you know about Betty, you know that she was always independent. She was a school teacher back in her day. She loved her family, and she loved herself a good gospel church choir. So as you think about Betty, and as you think about getting to know someone like Betty over the course of 3 or 4 visits, I'd encourage you to share with me now, if you have a moment, or if you're watching this later, just jot down, how would you approach being with Betty? What type of information or what type of practice would make you feel most comfortable in visiting someone like Betty? So either Ken or Connie, since you guys are live, if you have a thought on how you would approach being with Betty, you can go ahead and share that. Or if not, we'll go on to the next slide.
I think from your comment here that she sang in the church choir, if you had your phone, maybe you could pull up some YouTube videos of some peaceful choir music. Have a church beat. But that might quiet her. That's what I would do. I don't know what Kim would do.
Well, that's a good first thought. That fits with kind of what you probably know about her from getting to know her or getting to know her through her daughter. What were you going to say, Ken?
Well, she was conscious. An icebreaker's always talking about the weather. Particularly in Colorado right now. Some good topics on it.
Yeah.
But usually what I found in 11th hour situations, the patient really isn't conscious.
Right.
And it's more, I wish I could remember the phrase that I sent you about, it isn't talking, it's just being there.
It is, yeah. So in this situation, if Betty, we might approach Betty, and I usually will say, my first approach, I just try to make like every other first approach, even if I know that a person is unresponsive. If my typical first approach with Betty is, well, hey, Betty, how's the weather today in your neck of the woods? Is it or Betty, did you know it's a bitterly cold day outside? It's Nate coming to visit, or it's Ken or Connie coming to visit. Or if your typical first reaction is more of a just, hey, Betty, good to see you. How are you doing today? I think that's always a good first approach, just to be as normal and natural as you can. And then you have a couple of different avenues that you can take depending on what you what your gut intuition is telling you, what you know about Betty, what you see in front of you. If you see that she's quite agitated, you don't want to raise the agitation level by saying or doing something that you think might raise that level. So as you said, Connie, maybe some calmer music if you know she's a music lover. If you happen to know what age group she liked working with as a school teacher, maybe just getting up next to her and, saying, "Hi, Betty, it's Nate. It's Tuesday and it's a bright sunny day outside today. And, as I was driving by, I saw some children playing and I thought of you today." You never know what might kind of spark a moment of connection, even if someone's unresponsive. And so what do you think would make you feel more comfortable with visiting someone who's unresponsive and not able to speak back to you? Just something to think about. Something to think about. And as we go through our time here today, I want to encourage you all, the two of you that are live here right now, those that will be watching this later, just really encourage you to consider, what feels uncomfortable about this situation and what could help me feel more comfortable. So let's dive right in. What is the 11th hour in hospice? As I mentioned, we're talking about someone who sometimes the lingo is they're actively dying. They're oftentimes unconscious, very unresponsive or minimal response. And I'd encourage you all, a lot of you received the blue book, Gone From My Sight, when you came on as a volunteer. If not, I'll get you a copy. This is a really helpful resource. And then especially those of you that want to really spend time doing these 11th hour visits with your people or anyone on our service in need, I'd encourage this pink booklet. So a blue and a pink for not necessarily for girls and boys, but for girls and boys and men and women and all of us that are just interested in doing a really good job, because these booklets will help explain the physical changes, the mental or emotional changes of what's going on at this time. And they'll also talk in the spiritual or the existential realm of what a person may be going through. Really want to highlight just at any point in the hospice journey, but it's even more critical and got to be more focused at this 11th hour nature, that we put the patient and the family, as I like to say, at the center of the circle, or they're the hub of the wheel. And as you can see around the circle, you've got all the different people involved in their care, and that includes our volunteer team, which play just an equal amount of help and support as everyone else. Everyone has a prescription, so to speak, of what they can bring and offer in terms of comfort and support in this 11th hour, and volunteers are no different. I finally found another emblem that I was looking for on one of our Brookdale brochures that's very similar. It's got some pictures here just of what it looks like to put the patient and the family in the center of the circle. And that's what we want to focus on, is just making sure that they're at the center of the circle of care here. So you all will get a copy of this PowerPoint presentation, and I'll send out this YouTube video. We're not going to take the time in this moment to watch it, but the same lady who did the pink and the blue books here is a wonderful educator in the hospice realm, Barbara Carnes, and she has a great discussion online about kind of new rules or new ways to view this end-of-life care, especially if someone is nearing the end, and realizing that it is a natural process of what they're going through. It's a community process of what they're going through, and that it's so much more important to concentrate on who we can be in that moment for the person, instead of always what we're trying to do for the person. Yes, there are some things we can do to help them and comfort them, but we want to match the being and the doing together, so that we are just providing the most optimal level of presence and comfort possible. So again, an 11th hour volunteer is enriching the life of the person and the family in the final hours. You might look at it as a goodbye to an old friend or hello to an intimate stranger that you're just getting to know in this moment. And the goal again is to care with a heart of compassion, to connect in that moment, to tune into the moment and tune out any distractions that might be causing you difficulty to tune in. And then companion, just a moment-by-moment journey with the person and their family. And I am so grateful that Connie has agreed to share some of her experiences. She just had a goodbye old friend moment this last week with one of her gentlemen that she's been seeing quite often. So I'm going to try to pull you up here, Connie, on the screen and let you share with us what it's been like for you to be an 11th hour volunteer and any insights you'd like to share with us as you have gone through this.
Thanks, Nate. I appreciate this opportunity to share. I look at 11th hour as just walking somebody home to whatever their home would be, just being there, being that calm, quiet presence. Recently, I went into something that I had visited quite often. In his better days, we talked a lot of politics. He taught me patience. He had Parkinson's, and for him to be able to verbally respond took a lot of patience. But he was worth waiting for. And like Ken has Bailey, I take pictures of my chickens. I have chickens in the backyard. And so he started calling me the chicken lady. He could never remember my name. I was always the chicken lady. And I kind of felt honored that, he would call me out in the hall. When I went to see him, he was at that stage, that unresponsive stage. And his daughter was there. And we were speaking softly. And she looked at me very matter-of-factly and said, well, just tell him to go on. Or just tell him to go on. Kind of caught me a little off guard. And I looked at her and I asked her very, very quietly, very peacefully, I said, are you ready for Dad to go on? And she kind of looked at me and kind of got start. She looked at me, she said, yeah, I think I am. That needs to come from you. Because we can say our goodbyes, but the family needs to, I feel, confirm with the patient, Dad, we're going to be okay. We'll take care of Mom, Dad. For me, I just told this patient, I said, thank you for being my friend. I appreciate what you taught me. And I'll let in on your wife. I felt that would be reaffirming to him because he'd been married for over 60 years. And after the daughter agreed, verbalized she was ready, you could feel a calmness in the room. I think Dad needed to hear that. I believe that they hear our conversation. It was awkward. We're going to have those awkward moments. But I was honored to be there. I was only there about 15 minutes, but I was honored that they would allow me in on that precious moment in their time and to say goodbye to a good friend. So I don't know what else you want me to share, Nate.
Would you mind just sharing with us some of the thoughts or feelings that were going through your mind, either in this situation or others that you've had as we've talked through some of these scenarios? You've been walking alongside of a lot of folks lately as they make their way home, and I think it's always nice to hear kind of the inner processing that a person who's in your shoes as a volunteer might be going through, and what has helped you feel most comfortable or felt like you've benefited from a certain thought or a certain approach in those times?
Well, like I said, I'm just walking somebody home. I've sat with people that are born-again Christians. I've sat with people that had no faith family. And it's just a moment in time. I look at hospice work as being invited to an art gallery. And the art gallery, all the pictures is the patient's life. And some of the pictures are painted and complete, and some are not. And I have just been allowed the privilege to see that last painting be painted. I try to ask the staff some history, and there's usually a book on each person. I do like to play music. I find that very comforting. I talk to them. Ask again with the staff if there's a cold wash rag for their forehead or warm. Try to make sure that they're as comfortable as I, as a volunteer, can make them. When family comes, I ask them if they want me to leave or if they want me to stay. I've had family ask, can they hear me? Can I touch them? I said, oh my goodness, yes, talk to them. Talk to your mom. Talk to your dad. This is your last chance, you know. This is a golden opportunity. Is usually the word I use. I usually don't use last chance. But please hold their hand. Touch their face. Just talk to them. That has been the most peaceful for me. I've had daughters that can't be with mom. They're in another state. And I've communicated with them on text with permission of Nate in Brookdale. Positive, very short messages. Mom is resting. There appears to be no pain. The nurse was here and checked on her. Just those little tidbits that kind of give somebody some comfort. Nate?
Yeah, that's great. Thank you, Connie. I think you really did a nice job just illustrating that, you could try to think of 100 different things to do for the person, but you really approached it with the heart first. Just how can I be with this person? How can I be very, in tune to what that moment brings? What, do I see something that looks a bit uncomfortable? And, do I go talk to somebody about that, or do they appear very comfortable? So I'm going to just sit here with them and reassure them and talk to them and let them know that I'm here with them. And I think you also pointed out a really good, just another opportunity to say, this is a golden opportunity, and really just approach it from a sense of humility and honor to be there, and to always defer, to family if they arrive or if they're there. Sometimes family will want you to be there with them. Sometimes you're there to kind of relieve the family. Like our first example with a Betty, we might be encouraging a family to take a break, and so your role of being there may even be more for the family sometimes than even the person who is dying.
Right.
The person who is dying may be in a wonderful, sweet spot, but the family may just need that physical person to still be there to reassure them that, mom or dad's going to be okay, someone is here. I think it takes comfort to know that, you all as volunteers are not just strangers off the street. You are a part of our team. We want to emphasize that over and over and over, that sometimes it can feel as a volunteer like, well, what do I have to offer? I'm just a volunteer. Well, you have a whole lot to offer. You have a heart and a soul and a presence and a care that sometimes could go even further than the paid staff's heart, soul, and care, because the paid staff has to divide their heart, soul, and care sometimes among 30 or 40 people, depending on your discipline. If you're a social worker or a chaplain or a music therapist, they're seeing 30, 40 people over the course of a month's time. And in the moment, they're very great and very good at tuning in and being there for that person. But this may be one or two of the people that you see, and you just know them like the back of your hand. And so that's where, even if it's a goodbye old friend visit, like Connie shared, that can be really helpful. If it's a hello stranger, I'm here to be with you in this intimate moment. Some of the same rules apply. You're really tuning into the person, you're tuning into the moment. You're observing with your eyes and ears open to see if there's anything that needs to be tended to. And it may not feel like you're doing a lot, but by being there and being tuned into this person and having them as your sole focus for 30, 40, 80, 90 minutes, 120 minutes, however long you're there, it serves a wonderful, wonderful service to this person and their family. Is there anything else you would want to share, Connie?
Yeah. Regarding the family, I had one where the daughter, when she was with her mom, she didn't want anybody else in the room. So I just kind of hovered, and every now and then she'd open up the door and say, "Can you pour me water, get the nurse?" I was kind of like her gopher, if you will. And that was the ministry she needed. That's what she needed in that moment. And I've had other family. One lady, she came straight from work, took a nosedive real quick, and she had to eat. And there's always saltines at a nursing home. And a handful of saltines and a cup of water, it goes a long way when you're sitting there with your mom. I know the Brookdale, Lakewood over here, they're real good. The CNAs will always stop me and say, "I know you're with patient, what do you need?" And I can, go down to the kitchen and ask them, and they'll help. So that's something else as a ministry to the family that I have found that works.
Yeah, it's just a tremendous support. We want you all as volunteers to feel empowered that if you don't know the exact right answer to a question, or you don't know exactly how to go get help or support, just start with the first person you see with a Brookdale name badge on and go from there. Please, don't feel like you again have to delay. You're there as a part of our team. You're there to be an advocate and a support for the person or their family members. So whether it's just asking a lot of questions, whether it's, "Oh, I know what to do here, I'm going to just jump in and do it." You have our blessing to ask a lot of questions, to try to put your best foot forward to help in whatever way makes sense in that moment. And when all else fails, someone with the Brookdale Hospice team, whether it's at midnight, whether it's at 3 in the afternoon on a Sunday, somebody will answer the phone, somebody will answer your question for you on the hospice side if there's not a live person with you in that moment that you feel like you're getting answers from. So when all else fails, always have our main hospice number on speed dial and ready to go. I may not be able to answer your question or may not be able to be reached, but again, you have our permission and blessing to reach out to whoever you need to get the support that you need.
Right. Sadly, Nate, I am going to have to leave. Ken has more answers than I do, and if he doesn't check with Bailey, you'll be
Bailey's the real expert. Talk about someone who knows how to tune in and tune out any distractions. That's Bailey's our PhD expert on that.
Get that right.
Yeah, he does. Well, thank you again for your time, Connie. I know you've got a lot going on.
You.
Have a wonderful day.
Yeah,
Bye-bye.
You too. Take care.
All right. Well, we're going to continue on with the second half of our time together and just address a few different things that might be on the minds of you as a volunteer. And we're not going to be able to address each of these questions today. That's why we'll have, 2 or 3 more as we go through the year to take on these questions. And as you hit questions or concerns while you're out there with folks, please again reach out to me and let me know what I can do to support. So oftentimes we may be asked to respond and go see someone if they're having a bit of agitation. We'll oftentimes refer to that as terminal agitation, when the body is shutting down and the mind is trying to make sense of the body shutting down, and the unseen world is becoming very real to the person in that bed. Agitation is normal. We try to help that as in multiple ways through having a peaceful and calm environment, through, as Connie mentioned, maybe playing some music, maybe keeping the lights turned low, maybe keeping the doors shut. So if there's any external noises going on in the hallway, sometimes even asking caregivers to be respectful of just maybe 2 or 3 at a time and to see this person. And then sometimes there could be a dozen or more people in the room with this person, and the person is just completely calm and at peace with that. You can't make a judgment on anything blanket here. It's just a case-by-case situation, but you respond as best as you know how, to be calm as you can yourself, to encourage other people to, to talk together, to share with the person, to sing if they want to sing, to cry together if they need to cry, to take a moment outside to compose themselves, but that it's okay to have emotions in that moment. And it's just the wild, out of control agitation from caregivers and from family that could oftentimes add fuel to a patient's agitation. But if it just doesn't seem that any of that is helping, holding a person's hand, talking to them, playing music, it's always appropriate to call the hospice and just explain what you're seeing and let one of our clinical staff know that that's what you're seeing. When someone is actively dying, you may have heard the old term, is there a death rattle? Well, oftentimes one of the symptoms of someone being at the end stages of their life is that their breathing will change significantly. It becomes quite irregular. There may be long periods where they're not taking a breath, maybe as few as 4 or 5 breaths over the course of a minute. And that may not seem like it's such a big deal, but if you just kind of counted your breaths over the course of a minute, you could easily, have 30 or 40 breaths in the course of a minute without even being, exerting yourself. So if a person's only taking 1 breath and then pausing for 20 seconds, that can appear quite distressful. Sometimes they're, due to their disease process, they can get secretions that collect in the back of their throat. And as they take a deep breath, that is what sounds like almost a rattle. And we have medication that we oftentimes use there. It's called atropine. So you may hear a nurse say, oh, we're giving atropine to Mrs. Jones to help control her secretions. But sometimes that just isn't even enough, and that's unavoidable. It doesn't mean that they're in pain. It doesn't mean that they're not able to breathe or take a good breath. It's just it just is the way it is in that moment. Connie brought up a moment, should I stay visiting there if family is present? It's always perfectly acceptable to ask, unless we've already talked about that ahead of time. What do I do if the family's upset? What do I do if they're crying uncontrollably? Again, you can do your best just to be there to listen to them, invite them to talk about their loved one as much as you feel comfortable. But if you're just really not feeling comfortable, it's okay to excuse yourself, just to say, I can see you all are upset in this moment. I'm going to bow out to let you all have your time here together, and I'll let the staff here know that I'm taking off and that they need to be checking in with you. And again, you can always also ask them, would it be helpful if I contacted the nurse or contacted a social worker or a chaplain for you? We'd love to be here to support you in this time of need. You don't have to ever feel like you are the end-all, be-all solution to any problem that's going on. You can pick up the phone, contact the hospice team, and just let them know, even if you're not sure who needs to be contacted, just let them know that somebody needs to be contacted. As Connie mentioned, that the question comes up with patients and their family members at this time on that dynamic, should I talk to my mom or dad? Should I talk to my brother? Should I speak to my spouse? It's always perfectly acceptable to encourage them to speak to them. They can hear us. And oftentimes that is a very comforting situation. Sometimes the old saying that silence is golden at times, but it can also be deafening. Sometimes there can be a deafening silence that is in a person's room. That's why just speaking every couple of minutes to them, reassuring them, letting them know that you're with them can be such a great comfort. So there's many, many, many other questions we could cover. We aren't going to take the time to cover them all now, but we will. And if this sparks other questions that you all would like to know about, let me know. Because we honestly, all of us, and I know all of you, when you go to spend time with one of your patients, whether it's the first visit and they're doing pretty well for someone that's just started with hospice, or whether you feel like it's the last visit, there can be the concern that somehow we're going to miss the mark, somehow we're going to slip on that banana peel. And we want to reassure you that there's very little that you could do to literally miss that mark, as long as you are abiding by the goal of bringing peace and comfort and doing no harm, and you're being respectful to the patient and their family. Sure, you may hit an unintended banana peel, but we all do. I've hit my fair share of them over the years, and I'm still standing and still klutzy and still will hit a few more as we go along. But again, what does hitting the mark look like? It may not be a tiny little bullseye. Hitting the mark might just mean that we're just going to aim for the whole dartboard, and our goal is just going to hit the dartboard. If I can show up, if I can ensure that this person is comfortable, if I can let this person know for the 30 minutes, 60 minutes, 90 minutes or longer that I'm with them, that they are not alone. And if that's all that you do is just every 20 minutes let this person know that they're not alone, you've hit the mark. You have done good. You have made a wonderful difference in that time. If above and beyond that you find that music is helpful, you find that rubbing lotion on their hands is helpful, you find that talking to them about their family photos is helpful, terrific. All that is getting closer and closer to that center bullseye. But we just want to focus on hitting the mark by being in tune with whatever the moment brings us and doing our very best to just provide comfort and encouragement and a calm presence while we're there with the person. So how do we become this compassionate companion? How do we become not just, a good hospice volunteer, but a good hospice volunteer who really does a good job at being with your person or persons as they get closer to the end of their time here on earth? As I think about it, anyone who cares can companion. You all wouldn't be hospice volunteers if you didn't care. Bailey cares, Ken cares, Connie cares, Lauren cares, Rosalind cares, Sienna cares, Angela cares, everyone cares if you're a hospice volunteer, but you may not choose to really be that 11th hour companion with someone, and that's okay. So anyone can care, but maybe not anyone is suited to be a very end of life companion. Maybe you feel much more comfortable saying your goodbyes while the person is still, relatively intact and doing well with us. Maybe you just treat every visit as if it could be the last, and you just feel very comfortable with that. that's okay. That's still providing a great deal of compassion and support for someone on their end-of-life journey. So becoming an end-of-life compassion is a lot about just growing in our understanding. We want to build a knowledge base of understanding of the physical, emotional, spiritual dynamics. We want to build a knowledge base and understanding of where the family might be coming from. We want to build a knowledge and understanding of what our role could look like in this time. And again, that role could be just as simple as just being eyes and ears for the dying and the hospice team. Your eyes and ears are there for the dying person who may not be able to say to someone, gee, I'd really like someone to put some chapstick on my lips because it's so dry in here. And you're able to help with that. You might be, again, like Connie shared, that gopher for the family who's able to go get some coffee, go get some water, advocate for them to see whatever needs could be met. And you might be just the right person at just the right moment to be there for this person who they needed you to sit there, tune into their needs, hold their hand, reassure them that they're not alone as they take this final journey. And again, this is such a huge benefit for the family. I hear it all the time. Thank you, thank you, thank you. That the whole team was there for my mom. Oh my goodness, I didn't know that hospice had so many things that my mom or dad could benefit from, or I had no idea how much we would lean on the whole team. Oh my goodness, it's so wonderful that this volunteer that has a million other things that they could be doing would take the time out to sit here and be with my loved one. You may not physically see the results, but I truly, truly believe, and I hope you believe, that what you're doing in those moments, whether it's the very first moment that you meet a patient, you play bingo with them and you look at photographs and you swap stories, or whether it's the last moment with them, anytime you have a moment with one of your people or their family members, it's planting a seed of hope. And at some point we will see the results. It just may not be immediately. So as you all continue to grow and as you all continue to become more and more skilled at this, especially the specialty of 11th hour visiting, I want to remind you that there's really kind of two paths moving forward. There's the path of being an 11th hour volunteer for your patient, who you've already established a relationship with. Maybe you just visited them once, and then the next week you're going to visit them. They might be nearing the end of their life. You can be an 11th hour support for them, even after just spending one visit with them. You may be assigned a person to go see that's in your community, and that one visit may be the very last visit, and you might not have realized that, because in the week's time from when you saw them first to the next week when you were going to see them, that they passed on and they were no longer with us. So even that first visit, without realizing it, could be an 11th hour visit. And so it just reminds us how important it is to tune in and really be present in that moment and do the best that we can to find a connecting point of establishing that meaningful moment with the person. Now, there are times that, and I've encouraged our staff to tell me, do you have any of your patients, nurse, social worker, chaplain, I say this too, do you have any of your people who would benefit from a volunteer being there for them? It could be that they already have a volunteer and they just could benefit from more visits. Or it could be that they didn't have a volunteer because it wasn't wanted or didn't seem like it would be helpful 3 weeks ago, but now it would really be helpful. I would love to know if you have the desire to serve as an 11th hour vigil volunteer. This is above and beyond the call of duty. Again, you may not want to do this. You do not have to do this. This is not a requirement to be a volunteer for Brookdale Hospice. But if you want to be called upon for someone in need of 11th hour support, whether their volunteer wasn't able to be out there or their volunteer needs more than just one, their person needs more than just one volunteer, or whether we never had a volunteer out there for this person, whatever the situation might be, we from time to time have special requests for extra support, and we may need someone for an hour, 2 hours minimum to be there with that person. And so this could be any patient across the Denver metro area, or you could just say, you know what, I'm good just going to the east side of town. I'm good only going to people on the west side of town. So if that sounds like something that you'd be interested in, being contacted by me, being contacted by our weekend on-call staff, or an evening nurse that might have an emergency need at 7 o'clock at night, 8 o'clock at night, if you have that desire to serve above and beyond the call of duty, let me know. Again, there's no pressure, there's no requirement to have to do this, but there would be a commitment to this ongoing training and just kind of ongoing coaching, and just being willing to, say, yes, I can do this, or no, I can't do this time, but give me a call tomorrow if you need someone to go out and be with them. So if you have a desire to serve as an 11th hour vigil volunteer, which is above and beyond just 11th hour visits, let me know. That's the bottom line. Let me know. Because again, the goal would be a dedicated team that could be called upon for any need. This might be just, again, someone needs extra visits above and beyond what their current volunteer could do, or this could be a very special situation that we did not anticipate or did not plan. It could be east side, west side, or any side. And also you could let me know if you would be okay with me giving your contact information to the weekend staff just in case they needed to reach you. So think about that. If that's something you want to talk about, I'd be glad to share that with you. So for those of you that are watching this at another time, please jot down any questions, any thoughts, any concerns, and get back to me. Let's talk about this. Let's hit these questions up next time we do a training like this on 11th hour service. I'll turn it back to Ken since he's live with me, and he can ask Bailey since he speaks Bailey's language if they have any questions or thoughts or concerns about this 11th hour volunteer, or any insights that you'd want to share with the team.
Bailey's in a deeply relaxed mood over here.
He's practicing that Zen moment of being present.
Right. Yeah. No, I think on the 11th hour, just being there is a comfort to the patient. Mm-hmm. And in some of the situations that I've been in when the family is there, and like they've never met B or Bailey before, they usually warm up mm-hmm. when we've been there for a period of time, mm-hmm. and they are glad to see us. Yeah. And it is a comfort to them. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think just there's no way we don't want to ever underestimate the power of a moment. You just never know what that moment might bring to someone, and so we don't want to be in a hurry because we don't want to miss a moment, and yet we also want to be sensitive that we don't linger too long and the moment turns into an epic 3-hour movie marathon that this person wasn't planning on. But again, please contact me if you have any thoughts, any questions, if you have any scenarios, or if you're feeling just a little bit hesitant or feeling uncertain about what it would be like for you to visit one of your people when they near the end, please reach out to me. There's no shame in that. There's no harm in that. I think we all, if we're being honest, still, no matter how long you've been doing this, get the butterflies, get a little bit nervous when we know that our person isn't doing well and what it might look like, and we start to anticipate our own grief over losing this special person that we've developed a relationship with. So I just thank you all so much for enriching the lives of our patients, of our families when it matters the most. And it especially matters the most when you come to this 11th hour time, when you never know when that last breath might come along. So thank you, thank you, thank you again from the bottom of my heart for all that you do out there. You all are an amazing team, truly, truly amazing people, and I look forward to being with you again soon as we continue our work on enriching lives when it matters most. Have a great day, everybody.